Yo, I'm Beyond. I'm sure you've seen the Game Animation Sample Project, or GASP. Today we're going to dive into it, and we're going to go from the default setup to this first person setup. Super easy to follow along, and if you follow to the end, there's a bonus chapter that will show you how to add a weapon with two-hand IK with upper body animations. Let's get started with... Alright, to start off we're going to go into the character blueprint sandbox character. We need to parent the spring arm to the character mesh. Here we're going to use the head bone. Once you're there, you're going to zero out the location and rotation, and then set the target arm length to 0. You're also going to want to disable enable camera lag, as that's going to cause issues with seeing the character. Compile, save, and play, and you'll notice that nothing happens. This is because you have to go to your event graph in the event possessed and event tick, get rid of the update camera node. Alright, that's looking good. So now we could do a little adjustments to the camera, make sure it's centered in the head. This is totally up to your preference, whether you want it higher at eye level or towards the neck. Some FPS games do towards the neck just because it lines up with the gun better. And lastly, just make sure that once the strafe and once the aim is set to true. Now onto rotations. We're going to go into the update rotation function in the character blueprint, and on this node just change this value to -1 so that when you're jumping in the air, your character's body matches you perfectly. Normally it'll lag behind a little bit when you jump, so this will fix that issue. Alright, we're going to go back to the event graph and we're going to go to the camera input. We're going to grab these nodes and we're going to expand it a little bit to give us some space. We're going to use this to edit the amount of camera rotation while you're doing traversal actions such as climbing, mantling, and bolting. To do this, we're going to use a branch using the doing traversal action as the determining factor, whether it's true or false. So right now, when you are doing a traversal action, there will be no camera movement at all. And don't worry about this camera clipping here, we're going to fix that at the end of this chapter. You do want camera movement while you're doing traversal actions. All you have to do is copy and paste these nodes. And instead of just directly inputting the input values, you're just going to want to multiply those by, say, 0.5 or 0.1, whatever you decide you want the camera movement to be. And you could also make it a float variable that you can later adjust whenever you like. I'm just going to leave it like this for the sake of the tutorial, but typically I would make it a variable. So for this example here, I put it to 0.4 so that when you climb, you can see it in action now. You're not able to completely turn around and see your character's back. I did ultimately end up changing it to 0.1 as I feel like that's a value that works best for me. Save and compile. And now we can move on to the character's animation blueprint. From here, we're going to want to go to the get offset root rotation mode and change this last node to release. This way that when you rotate, your character will rotate with you rather than standing in place. We can also go into the should turn in place node and change it to anything between 5 and 15. I feel like 5 works pretty good. And to avoid the clipping that you saw from earlier, just increase the capsule size radius to about 50 and move the character back within it so that when you push up against the wall, you'll never clip into it. And with all that done, we're about to move on to the third and last chapter before the bonus. Alright, to get started here, we're going to create a new variable. Let's name it upper body pitch and make sure to change it to type float. This is going to store the Y input value that can be referenced by the animation blueprint as an input value. You could double click on any of the links to create a fork that you could branch off of and create other functions with. So here we're going to multiply. So we're going to multiply by 0.5. I did the calculations already because I was trying to figure out for a while to get the right amount for the pitch, and 0.5 seems to be the perfect amount. Then we're going to add from this. So then we're going to add the upper body pitch to the multiplied 0.5, and that's going to be the end result that we're going to link into the animation blueprint. Heading back to the animation blueprint, we want to find the event blueprint update animation. Between that and Git, you want to add a sequence. Then we're going to add the reference variable for the sandbox character there. From there, we want to link off of that to get the upper body pitch. We could promote this to a variable so that we could use it in the anim graph. You can then add that to the sequence. Compile and save, and let's go to the anim graph. In the anim graph, we're going to want to find the motion matching node, disconnect it and move it to the side. We're going to use this to make a saved cache pose. We'll name that motion matched base. Now go back to where you disconnected the motion match. So from here, you're going to want to add a layered blend by bone. And this first base pose is where you're going to want to add that use cache pose motion matched base. So when you do this, it's going to apply it to the entire model. Later, we're going to use this to add upper body animations. You could give yourself some space because we're going to have to add some more nodes. We're going to find the transform modify bone. And we're going to want to copy this 5 times. But first unpin the translation and scale because we don't need those. All we need is the rotation. From there, you could do a make rotator, and we're going to use this for all 5 of the nodes that we make. Go ahead and set the rotation mode to add to existing, and take the upper body pitch and add it to the roll. Set this to spine 1, and then you could go ahead and copy and paste that 4 times, and make them spine 2 to 5 respectively. Gonna speed through all of this because it does take a little bit to set up, but take your time with it. Alright, so now we added all that back up to where the motion matching was. This is where we're changing the bone names. And save and compile. So as you're standing neutral, you look straight forward, you look down, and now your character's slumped over looking at the ground. This is going to make more sense when you add a weapon or so, but here we notice we have an issue. When we keep rotating, it constantly rotates. So we need to add a clamp to this. You could do a clamp float or a clamp angle. Here we did a clamp angle. Here we're going to set it to -18 and 18. This is going to stop it in those 2 angles so that when you're looking down and you look up, you won't constantly keep rolling. And if you made it to this point, congratulations, you have a first person setup. From here, you can expand on it however you like. And at this point, if you don't care about any of the stuff in the bonus chapter, I invite you to join the Discord. That's going to be linked in the description. From there, if you have any trouble following along with what happens in the tutorial, I'd be happy to answer your questions. I want it to be a community where we could share what we're working on and maybe help each other expanding on, say, for example, this project. So, without further ado, let's jump into the last chapter where I'm going to be going over things such as removing the turning vaulting animations, allowing you to jump and climb mid-air, upper body animations, and how to add a hand socket and add a gun to it so we could use 2-hand IK, set up your first person character. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, to start off, we're going to be removing the twist, vault, and hurdles. So what you're going to want to do is go to the UE5.4 folder, go to the Traversal folder, and then you'll see chooser table. I marked off the ones that you're going to want to replace. I recommend just replacing them with the non-V2 version. Now going back to the animation blueprint, we're going to start by making the bone for the blend pose 1 spine 1 so that you can see what this is going to do in total. So once you apply it, it gets rid of the animation for the upper body. We're going to want to add a couple more pins to the layered blend per bone. This way we can add inputs for the left and right arm, along with the spine and the neck. So you're going to want to go to the config section of the details panel, and you're going to want to go to layer groups. So for each index, you're going to want to add a array element, which I'm going to display on the screen right here on the right. Just copy those, and that'll be for the left and right arm respectively. I highly recommend just copying the index 1 for index 2, and then just replace the L for R. Alright, and if you put the blend weight to 1, you'll see that the arm goes from no animation to back to full animation. Alright, and then just make sure to check the box for mesh space rotation blend. That's going to get rid of all the wobbly movements that you see in the upper body demonstration just before. Now we need some animations to blend for the left and right arm. So just get any animation asset that you have that you want to use for the upper body and retarget it to the UEFN mannequin. Create a new folder for animations. Export. And now we can drag that pose into the animation blueprint and set it as one of the blend poses. So I'm going to apply them both to the left and right arm, which is index 1 and 2. And now you can see that only the left and right arm got the animation applied. So now we're going to add a socket to the character. So you're going to go to the skeleton, find the hand R, right click it, and add socket. Now you're going to get your skeleton mesh, whichever one that you want. Parent them to the character mesh, and make sure you parent it to the hand socket. Going back to the skeleton, you can add a preview mesh, which will be the same mesh gun that you use for your character, so you can position it in the right spot. You could also put a preview animation, so I'm going to use the idle that I retargeted before, and I could really set it into the right spot. Now when you zero out the location and rotation in the character blueprint, it'll go into the right spot. Now going back to the animation blueprint, we're going to want to go farther down right before the default slot. You're going to want to add a 2 bone IK and use that for the left hand. You're going to want to use a bone space and use the hand R for this. When you click the 2 bone IK node, you get these 2 little gizmos, one for the bone position and one for the elbow position. And then you could grab that and adjust the position. But once you put it into place, you're all set. Now we're going to go into the midair traversal. This is honestly the easiest one. All you have to do is delete this branch, reconnect it, and you're good to go. And now when you're in midair, you can run, jump, and grab onto ledges. Now I'm going to show you a very easy slow down effect that also distorts the audio. On event tick, you're going to make a sequence on the second output. You want to get the set global time dilation node and the set global audio modulation node. Promote the variable for the time dilation and plug it into the pitch dilation as well. Set the default value to 1. Now you could choose any key. I'm just gonna choose key E. You could also set a input action for this. For demonstration purposes, I'm just gonna use the key E. So you're gonna use a flip-flop here and just set the time dilation to whatever you want it to be. When you press the key, it'll flip back and forth between the two. Just this one variable will change both the time slow and the amount of distortion that the audio gets to match that time slow. And there you go. And with that, you're all set to start off on your FPS game. Whether you want to use ARs, pistols, it's all the same. You could even do hand-to-hand. Of course, disabling the 2-bow-9K. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys find some of the information here useful and that you could apply it to your projects. If you like my content, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. There's going to be more stuff like this. And of course, I'll be showing off my own personal projects soon. I can't wait to see what you guys make. Again, feel free to join the Discord where we can help each other create these games. And I'll see you next time.